You know that feeling when you scroll through a dozen workstation listings, see sleek towers with glossy photos, and think, this is exactly what my CAD software needs, only to find out after the first week that the machine can't keep up with a 3D render or stalls when you open a huge Photoshop file? It's a frustrating reality that many creators and engineers run into, especially when they base the decision on headline specs without digging into how those specs translate to day-to-day work. I've spent the last few days setting up the HP Z2G9 with the 14th Gen i7-14700, testing it with a mix of engineering simulations, video editing timelines, and a couple of heavy-duty data analysis scripts, and I want to share what actually matters before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the Z2G9 isn't trying to be a gaming beast. It's built for professionals who need a reliable, expand-ready platform. The i7-14700 brings 12 cores and 20 threads, which on paper looks like plenty for multitasking. In practice, I found the processor shines when I run parallel simulations in SolidWorks. Each core can be dedicated to a different part of the mesh, and the system stays responsive even with the simulation window open alongside Outlook and a web browser. The same setup handled a 4K video export in Adobe Premiere Pro without the dreaded rendering stalled messages that I've seen on lower-tier desktops. The 16GB of DDR5 RAM is the next piece most buyers question. For a workstation that's meant to handle large assemblies or multi-track video projects, 16GB can feel tight if you push the limits. I tested a 200-layer PCB design in Altium Designer with a few background apps, and the machine dipped into the 512GB SSD for swap fairly quickly. The swap activity didn't cause crashes, but you did notice a few seconds of stutter when switching between the design view and the schematic. If you routinely juggle 3 heavy applications, say, a simulation, a CAD model, and a data visualization dashboard, adding another 16GB stick will make the experience smoother. The good news is the Z2G9 has easy access to the memory slots, so upgrading later is a non-issue. Storage is where the Z2G9 starts to feel purposeful. The 512GB PCIe NVMe SSD delivers lightning-fast boot times. Windows 11 Pro was up and ready in under 10 seconds. More importantly, loading a 30GB CAD project took less than a minute, which is a big win compared to older SATA-based drives. However, the drive's capacity can become a bottleneck if you store raw footage, large simulation results, or extensive version histories on the same disk. I recommend pairing the stock SSD with a secondary, larger SATA SSD or even a traditional HDD for archival files. The tower chassis makes that addition straightforward, and the rear I/O panel has room for a 2.5-inch drive without cramming. One of the Z2G9's hidden trade-offs lies in its graphics configuration. The listing mentions 4 graphics, which refers to the integrated Intel Arc GPU that comes with the W680 chipset. It's adequate for 2D design work and can drive multiple monitors without flicker, but it won't replace a dedicated workstation GPU for heavy GPU-accelerated rendering. I tried rendering a small Blender scene using the integrated graphics, and the render time was roughly double what I saw on a comparable system with an NVIDIA Quadro. If your workflow leans heavily on GPU rendering, think VROI, Redshift, or real-time visualization, you'll want to slot in a professional GPU, which the Z2G9's power supply and chassis can accommodate. The good part is the power supply is 500W and the motherboard supports PCIe 5.0. So you have headroom for a mid-range workstation card. Thermals are another practical point that often gets glossed over in marketing copy. The Z2G9's tower design includes a decent airflow path, with front intake fans and rear exhaust. Under a sustained load running a full simulation for an hour, the CPU temperatures hovered around 78°C, which is within safe limits but noticeably higher than a desktop with a larger case and more aggressive cooling. The system didn't throttle, but you'll hear the fans spin up more aggressively than on a consumer desktop. If a quiet office environment is essential, you might want to consider swapping the stock fans for quieter aftermarket ones or adjusting the fan curve in the BIOS. Now, who should actually buy this machine? If you're a freelance engineer, an architect who needs to run Revit and AutoCAD side by side, or a video editor who primarily works with 1080p or modest 4K projects, the Z2G9 offers a balanced mix of CPU power, fast storage, and expandability at a price point that feels justified. Its professional-grade warranty and HP's support network add peace of mind for small businesses that can't afford downtime. On the other hand, if your day-to-day revolves around massive GPU-heavy tasks like high-end 3D animation, AI model training, or real-time VR development, the integrated graphics will leave you wanting more, and you'll need to budget extra for a discrete GPU. Likewise, if you routinely work with terabytes of raw footage or simulation data, the base 512 GB